passion is not an actionable word. It's correct, that those who do the things that they're passionate about do better, but it's not helpful advice. And so the question is, where does passion come from? Passion is a result. Passion is an energy. Passion is the feeling you have when you're engaged in something that you love. Passion is the feeling you have that you would probably do this for free, and you can't believe somebody pays you to do it, And I think we mistake that passion is something we do in our private lives, but it shouldn't be done in our careers, for example. And I'm a firm believer that you are who you are. And anybody who says, I'm different at home than I am at work, in one of those two places, you're lying. And the goal is to make everything you do in home and at work something that you have excitement to do. So how do you find the things that you're excited to do? Well, it's actually easier than you think. What are the things that you love to do? What are the things that you would do for free? How can you recreate that feeling and be paid for it? So what are the things that I do on the weekend, right? I love, I'm very involved in the art world. I love to go to museums and galleries, but I love to go see dance and performances because I want to see how others are interpreting the world. So that inspires me. New ideas, new thoughts, new ways of looking at the world are things that interest me privately, and I seek it out and pay money for it, right? So does that mean I have to have a career in the arts? No, it means I have to have a career where new ideas are explored, where people are experimenting and trying things out, and I have to explore new ideas and try things out, and I'm just as excited to go to work every day as I am to, go do something on a Saturday night. And so the idea of finding your passion is ironically simple because you should be doing stuff that you enjoy sometimes. What is the stuff that you enjoy, and then what is the stuff that you love? Who are the people that you love, and what do they all have in common?
I find that levels of success in almost any industry or area correlate to a person asking great questions. In some cases, they seem absurd. In fact, the hallmark, in a way, of great questions is that they sound completely ridiculous. So someone might ask, like Peter Thiel, why can't you achieve your 10-year goals in the next 6 months? As a thought exercise, that's a good question to answer for yourself. And these types of questions come up surprisingly often with very, very impressive folks, whether it's in business, military, entertainment, or otherwise. And the way you can get better at questions is by studying interviews in part. So I studied Larry King, I studied Charlie Rose, I studied Terry Gross, I studied go down the list. I studied Tony Robbins, who does in-person, one-on-one interventions at his events in front of 10,000, 5,000 people. And he's just genius with how he uses questions to pattern interrupt and grab someone's attention and divert them in a more productive direction. Now, why is that relevant? It's relevant because thinking is the process of asking questions. You're asking yourself questions and then you're answering them in your own head. So if you get better at asking other people questions, you get better at asking yourself questions, which means you're improving your thought performance and level of thinking.
Everyone has a problem with time, but the day has 24 hours and we sleep 6. Now I know there's some out there that say, whoa, I need 8. Well, I say just sleep a little faster. Because the bottom line is we have 6 hours of sleep, 24 hours are available, so you have 18 hours now available to your work, your family, your hobbies, and also to learn something new or to do something new, which could easily be that you want to learn a new language or that you want to read as a New Year's resolution, I have to read a book every week, or you say, I'm gonna go and reshape my body. So you're gonna go and take this hour out of your schedule and say, I'm gonna train an hour every day. So this is, for most people, a huge challenge, but it is totally doable, I can tell them, because the kind of things that I did when I came to this country, I mean, I went to school, I was working in construction, I was working out my 5 hours a day, I was taking acting classes from 8 o'clock at night to 12 midnight. I was doing all of those things. I wanted to make sure that out of the 24 hours of the day, that I don't waste one single hour. Those hours were too precious. And so there I just want to tell people, don't give me this thing, I have a difficult time with the time and I don't have time for this and I don't have that. You have time, you make the time.
Hard work and discipline and rehearsal, and that's always the most thrilling way to earn applause. And everything that you've seen me do, I've always rehearsed a lot for it. So there's a lot of passion that goes behind it.
I mean, doing the same thing, I mean, just being known for like one thing your whole life, that's sad, you know? We all have so many interests, I'm sure. And so, you know, to get to make jobs of them all, or jobs, if you could call it that, but to make businesses out of them all, and see them on a daily basis in your light and how you visualize them is really cool and fun. And we can all do it. Mm-hmm. We all can do it. So many people are so afraid to try something because they're like, oh, like, I can't leave my job because I have to pay bills, or, it's like, well, start small then. But don't say you can't, because as many times as you say you can't, you're not going to. If you don't think you can, you won't. Thoughts become things.
I'm in meetings a lot. My calendar gets very full with those. And then at night, after the kids have gone to bed, I'm on email a great deal. I get messages during the day. That's my chance to give long responses. And then over the weekend, I send a lot of mail as well. I take 2 weeks a year to just go off and read and think, where I'm not interrupted by work or anything else. I'm just solidly trying to think about the future, and people get to send me things to read as part of that so-called Think Week. So it's a nice mix of things. About 25% of the time that I'm out traveling around, meeting with customers, Europe, Asia, and that sort of helps me think, okay, do we have the right priorities? What are people responding well to, and what would they like to see us do better?
I don't try to look too far in advance, because I get overwhelmed really easily. If someone has a lot of weight to lose, if their goal is like lose 100 pounds, I can only imagine, like, even with me with some of my goals, like this recovery, it feels like it's so far away, and it takes so long for you to like start seeing a difference that like you're naturally are motivated to keep going, right? That it'd be super easy to give up or to want to stop. But and I tell people this, if you just focus on all those little moments along the way and ignore what your big goal is, time goes by so fast. Yeah. Like a year goes by so unbelievably fast that it will be here before you know it. And I completely agree that sometimes if you focus on something that is so far away or does feel so out of reach, you can definitely get too discouraged, like before you actually try to get there.
Yeah. Start checking in with your thoughts and how you're feeling each day. So outside of a gratitude practice, which I'm going to kind of talk about as well, this is probably the #1 fastest way that you can start changing your life. And I'm going to tell you about the ripple effect that happens. So it's checking in to see where you're at. What emotion are you feeling in that moment? So if you wake up in the morning and you're anything like me, I don't necessarily wake up in the best mood at all. So I really need to start figuring out how to up-level my feelings, right? Because our feelings are the best indicators of what we're attracting, what we're going to attract that day, how we're going to feel, maybe what's going to come into our life, who we're going to end up talking to. Because truly, I know that we are all on we're all vibrating at a different frequency. So if you are a really positive, excited, happy person who knows that great things are going to come your way, or who's always thinking positive, you're going to attract that same type of person. And I can see this through my life as I've really started to up-level my life and my thoughts and my business, the people that are being drawn to me. So you really do, it really is like attracts like. So what we want to do is we want to get you into that mode, right? Those people that you're like, wow, they can just walk into a room and you just feel their energy. They're just vibrating so high, or maybe they're just always so happy, or they always, you just want to be around them because you want a piece of what they have. So how do we get there? How do we become one of those people when you wake up in the morning? Maybe if you are at a low point, or you're thinking about all the things that you have to do that day, what is a thought or what is something that you can do to get yourself to the next best reachable thought. So I don't want you to think that you have to go from 0 to 100 in that split second. It's basically going from 0 to 5 to 10 to 20 to 50 and working your way up. So it's one thought at a time. So maybe you wake up and you just say 3 things that you're grateful for every single morning. You let yourself really experience being grateful for it. Really think about why you're grateful. And then what you're gonna do is as you mosey down the stairs to get your cup of coffee, you say 3 more things you're grateful for. Or I'm so grateful that I have a job today because of what it allows me to do. And you really start letting that sink in. And you think of something that maybe you're excited about, something that you could create, something that you love about yourself. It's this constant up leveling of your thoughts. So it's guiding your thoughts, right? So instead of just being mindless, which what happens, we're imperfect human beings, right? So when we're mindless and when we don't guide our thoughts, they're gonna go to chaos. They're gonna go to craziness. They're gonna go to overwhelm because life is crazy. And we're constantly getting sidetracked. We're constantly getting distracted. It's literally people's full-time job on TV, on Instagram, on whatever we're doing to distract us, right? They want us to be their consumer. They want us to be completely distracted. They want us to go to this fast food place, do this thing, do that thing. So we need to bring it back to a mindful place. So really that's what we're doing when we up-level those thoughts is how do you bring it back from crazy town? So bring it on back and then guide it to that next best thought, right? Because the next best thought is going to attract another good thought, attract another good thought, and attract another good thought.
When I get to the courts, and, I have my bag and I'm wearing my hat and my hoodie, this is my office. Like, that's my workplace. And I'm laser focused. And I've had that. I mean, I think it's that mentality that whatever, I just have that tunnel vision, and that's how I go. And when I leave the courts, I got friends, family, jokes, fun. Like, when I get to my office, I close the door, and that's me.
That's you.
Yeah.
I think most forwards like to play under pressure, or else you wouldn't play the forward position. But I do like that pressure, and sometimes you don't always succeed, and that's okay. And as a forward, you have to find that balance. I mean, you're gonna shoot 5 times and maybe you'll score once, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll get 3 goals out of 3 shots. So it's a little unpredictable, and you just kind of got to go with it and have confidence in yourself.
And you worked as a lawyer and a judge 25 years on the bench, even before you broke into TV, which you did at the age of 52.
Right.
Were there any times that you said to yourself, man, this is just too big of a risk?
I did. I said it right at the beginning because, as most of you know, who are even tangentially involved with the entertainment industry, 99% of the things that television produces, that all these really smart people produce, fail. They spend a lot of money, they invest tens of millions of dollars to launch a program, and it goes south. So why did I think at age 52, when nobody knew who the hell I was, that I was going to be able to launch a successful career at my age? But you got to be in it to win it. It's like the lottery says, if you don't buy a ticket, you can't get that gold ring. And I said, I had a great career. I really loved the family court. I wasn't bored with it, but getting a little tired of all the failure despite my best effort. And I thought this might be an adventure, but you had a pension, and you had your health coverage, and you still had those license plates that were helpful. But I gave it a shot.
Yeah, and you gave it your all.
I gave it a shot, and the truth is, the people originally that produced my program, if I would have listened to them, it would have been a failure. That's true, I can say that now because they can't do anything to me.
Too many of us for a long time have confused our net worth and our self-worth. Your net worth is going to fluctuate. It's going to go up and down. That's what money does. But your self-worth should not. Who you are, what's important to you, how you live, your values should never be negotiable, compromised, and should never settle. Again, We have gotten to this point where we've got to say to ourselves, my net worth is not my self-worth.
I think the CEO of today not only has to have leadership skills and an IQ, there's got to be a healthy dose of EQ, the emotional side. Because millennials today, young people today, want to come to work for a company that cares about them. They want to feel connected to the company. And I think it's critically important that we humanize the CEO. The CEO cannot be this imperialist that's sitting there. We've got to humanize the CEO. We have to remove the barriers between the CEO and the front line. And that requires a new skill too. So I don't want to say it's me, but I think a lot of women CEOs actually can do pretty well in today's environment because by nature we humanize ourselves a lot more because that's the way we've been brought up. And we listen a lot more, I think. We stop and ask for directions. There's so much we do. And I think that today's world, I mean, there's a new breed of CEOs have come up, men and women, who are doing a very, very nice job. But all of them, I think, are a new breed that's learning that the world is completely different and recognizing that EQ is as important as IQ. That's what I'm trying to focus on as much as I can.
I have an old-fashioned belief that I should expect to make money in things that I understand. And when I say understand, I don't mean understand, what the product does or anything like that. I mean understand what the economics of the business are likely to look like 10 years from now or 20 years from now. I know, in general, what the economics of, say, Wrigley chewing gum will look like 10 years from now. The internet isn't going to change the way people chew gum. It isn't going to change which gum they chew. If you own the chewing gum market in a big way, and you've got Double Mint and Spearmint and Juicy Fruit, those brands will be there 10 years from now. So I can't pinpoint exactly what the numbers are going to look like on Wrigley, but I'm not going to be way off if I try to look forward on something like that. Evaluating that company is within what I call my circle of competence. I understand what they do, I understand the economics of it, I understand the competitive aspects of the business. So figuring out the economic consequences. TV, I think there's, 20, 25 million sets a year sold in the United States. I don't think there's one of them made in the United States anymore. I mean, you'd say TV set manufacturer, what a wonderful business. I mean, everybody, nobody had a TV in 1950, or thereabouts, 45 to 50. Everybody has multiple sets now. Nobody in the United States has made any real money making the sets. They're all out of business. The Magnavoxes, the RCAs, all of those companies. Radio was the equivalent of the 20. Over 500 companies making radios in the 1920s. Again, I don't think there's a U.S. radio manufacturer at the present time. But Coca-Cola, what was it, 1884 at Jacobs Pharmacy or whatever, the fellow comes up with something. A lot of copiers over the years. But now you've got a company that is selling roughly 1.1 billion 8-ounce servings of its product, not all Coke, Sprite, and some others, daily throughout the world 117 years later. So understanding the economic characteristics of a business is different than predicting the fact that an industry is going to do wonderfully. And so when I look at the internet businesses, or I look at tech businesses, I say this is a marvelous thing, and I love to play around on the computer, and I order my books from Amazon and all kinds of things, but I don't know who's going to win. And unless I know who's going to win, I'm not interested in investing. I'll just play around on the computer. And defining your circle of competence is the most important aspect of investing. It's not how important, how large your circle is. You don't have to be an expert on everything. But knowing where the perimeter of that circle of what you know and what you don't know is, and staying inside of it, is all important. Tom Watson Sr., who started IBM, said in his book, he said, I'm no genius, he said, but I'm smart in spots, and I stay around those spots. And that is the key. So if I understand a few things, and I stick in that arena, I'll do okay. And if I don't understand something, but I get all excited about it because my neighbors are talking about it, stocks are going up and everything, they start fooling around someplace else, eventually I'll get creamed, and I should.
I tend to be incredibly modest in terms of describing your talents, and you always seem to belittle your abilities to a certain extent when clearly there's a reason why this everything you do has been working out. I was reading about how you said that to a certain extent that comes from your punk rock roots.
Yep, there's no other choice. In those days, there was no idea of this makes money. There's no idea of like, this is my future. It was like a week at a time. We have 5 shows. We're gonna get to Sunday. Whew. And even those days were like fraught with turbulence. And so I never really saw a future. None of us did. And some of us, you know, didn't make it. Some of them are dead. And some of them are just kind of trying to recreate their past. And so I realized that I have to be very hardworking because I don't have kind of the ease of talent. And I come from that. And I think in a lot of ways it served me very well in that I am as kind of hardworking as I've ever been, completely without confidence. I have none. I don't want any, because I think you turn your back on the thing, and that's when you get gored. Is when you think, I got this. I never think I got this. I think, oh man, don't screw this up. And I go at everything, like including you and I sitting here right now. I'm trying to be fully engaged, and that intensity, I think, has served me quite well. But it comes from punk rock, absolutely. Last boss I ever had was my boss at Häagen-Dazs, my ice cream job. And to this day, he still comes to my shows. And whenever I see Steve, who got me my first apartment, I was living in my car, he believed in me. Whenever I see him, I get all weepy. I always tell him, it's good to see you, sir. Henry, you can call me Steve. I can't do that, sir. Because he trusted me with his money. And I said, let me run your store. I know how to do this. I can do this. He's like, well, if you screw up, you're out of here. I said, I won't screw up. And I ended up I ran his store. And so, but it was anger that said, I'll be here all damn week. I'll get this whole thing right. I fired a staff and rehired a bunch of people who can really work. And it was out of anger. Like, I'll be back in 4 hours to run this $3.75 an hour job into the ground. And then I joined Black Flag, and I thought I was a hardworking person. Then you meet the guys in Black Flag who are so driven. You see Greg Ginn work 23-hour days. Like, Greg, you're still on the phone. I know. Greg, when did you eat? I don't know. Greg, when was the last time you showered? Do we have a shower? Like, the guy, we were not going to be stopped. And I kind of go at that intensity, kind of anything I do. Like, you're a very calm, good-looking young man. Look at me, I'm a spaz sitting next to you. Like, I'm doing an interview with you. I can't help it.
Focused.
I'm sweating, man. And so, but I'm like this going to the airport, like 10 miles out. And so, it's anger that has informed kind of my life, and unflatteringly, a sense of vengeance. Every damn person who said I wouldn't be anything, I'm crushing them every day. Everybody I had to endure in any band I was in, every day, into a powder. Yeah. Thank you. And I wish them no ill. I just wish to shine brighter. And if it burns my body to a crisp, I'm happy to go right now.
My story is that I am a researcher, and I never thought I would have a big public career. And so I did a TED Talk that went very viral. And in the wake of that, I was kind of everywhere for a couple of months, on every CNN.com, NPR. It was everywhere, and something I wasn't used to. And the marching orders from my therapist and my husband were, do not read the comments online. So I read all the comments online. And so one morning, I woke up and there were 2 or 3 new articles out, and I started reading the comments. And they were devastating. They weren't about my work, they were about me. They were super personal. And they were the things that creative people play in their mind and then give up doing what they really want to do. Like, if I asked every single one of you, what would you try if you knew people would never say this about you? What would this be? Those were the comments that morning. Of course she embraces imperfection. What choice does she have? Look how she looks. I feel sorry for her kids. Less research, more Botox. Just mean personal attacks, the things that really, up until that moment, had inspired me to stay very small in my life and my career, just so I could avoid those things. So that morning, Steve and the kids leave. I stay home. I get on the couch, and I watch 8 hours of Downton Abbey. And when it's over, I don't want to turn off Downton Abbey. Because the minute you turn off Downton Abbey, then it's like soccer practice and dinner and back to the mean people, and maybe, should I get Botox? And maybe, maybe if I stand still when I talk. So I get out my laptop and I do a search for who was president in the United States during the Downton Abbey era. Have you ever done that? Like you're numbing with TV or a movie, and so when it's over, you just like stay in that space by like learning more about the actors and what's going on. I've been doing this long enough to know that this is like, you're laughing with me, not at me. So I put it in, and Theodore Roosevelt comes up, and a quote comes up. And I read it, and this is what it says. It's a quote from a speech that he gave in the early 1900s at the Sorbonne, and a lot of people call it the Man in the Arena speech. And this is the passage that changes my life. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done it better. The credit belongs to the person who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred with blood and sweat and dust, who, at the best, in the end, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who, at worst, if he fails daring greatly. So the moment that I read that, I closed my laptop, and this is what shifted in me. 3 huge things. First, I've spent the last 12 years studying vulnerability, and that quote was everything I know about vulnerability. It is not about winning, it's not about losing, it's about showing up and being seen. The second thing, this is who I want to be. I want to create. I want to make things that didn't exist before I touched them. I want to show up and be seen in my work and in my life. And if you're going to show up and be seen, there is only one guarantee, and that is you will get your ass kicked. That is the guarantee. That's the only certainty you have. If you're gonna go in the arena and spend any time in there whatsoever, especially if you've committed to creating in your life, you will get your ass kicked. So you have to decide at that moment, I think for all of us, if courage is a value that we hold, this is a consequence. You can't avoid it. The third thing, which really set me free, and I think Steve, my husband, would argue has made me somewhat dangerous, is kind of a new philosophy about criticism, which is this. If you're not in the arena also getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback.
You stare at your past and you'll end up staying there. It's okay to look back and admire it, but you carry on. I'm not in the business of staring back at it. You know what I mean? And getting lost back there. People say a loss can make or break a fighter, but trust me, a win can also make or break a fighter because they get comfortable with a win. People can get comfortable with a win, and slack off then. Slack off on the training. Slack off on the diet. They've won one. They're winners now. That's not me, you know. You sleep on a win and you'll wake up with a loss. So I just carry on, keep doing what I'm doing, and that's why this turnaround is so good for me. Vegas straight away. The Fighting Irish head to the fighting capital. It's perfect. Continue on this path. The freight train straight to the top.
You're only gonna go as far as you think you're worthy. I can push, you can push, you can have the greatest product, but if you don't feel worthy, you will work hard to sabotage that relationship. You don't know you're doing it. Right. You don't know you're doing it. You just think these are the things I need, and you're driving that guy away. You're driving that woman away because your self-worth says they weren't going to stay forever anyway. Or self-worth around money. You have a cap that you feel like you're worthy of $1 million. You will always get to $999,000 and you will stop because your self-worth says it.
What's a good exercise or process that we can follow on a daily basis, maybe something simple, to enhance our enrichment and worthiness?
Absolutely. I did this for 6 months, every single day right after I brushed my teeth. And it's the ICU exercise. And you get in the mirror now. It's not necessarily simple because you're dealing with yourself.
Of course.
And as complicated as you are, will be the degree
of the mechanics of it are simple.
The mechanics are very simple. Yes, I appreciate that distinction. You get in the mirror and you complete 3 different sentences. You want to write this down. The first sentence, you look at yourself and you say your name. So you say Lewis, and you complete this as I'm proud that you. And find 7 different things every day to celebrate yourself for. 7 different. Each day you can do the same thing you did the day before, but each day do 7 different things to be proud of. The second sentence is gonna knock you down a little bit. It's gonna come from your gut. Lewis, I forgive you for. And cut the shackles to blame, shame, guilt, regret, and anger. In that sentence, you cut those 5 shackles. Not the first day, maybe not the 3rd day, but by the 21st day, by the 13th day, you'll feel some relief. So, Lewis, I forgive you for. And go back 5 years, 15 years, 20 years, do that, forgive you for that thing don't nobody know about, but you. Go ahead and cut those shackles. Because if you can still think about it, it's still in your energy space.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd sentence is, Lewis, I commit to you that. Before you make a commitment to anybody else throughout your day, you make 7 commitments to you. So the first sentence is, I'm proud that you're celebrating yourself first. We are under-celebrated as a society. We look for acknowledgement. They interviewed 100 executives that all made over $250,000 and said, would you like a 5% raise next year, or would you rather be told thank you more often? 100% said, keep your money. I'd rather hear thank you. So we're under-celebrated. But first, celebrate you.
Yeah.
Be the example. When I was on Oprah, when she said, what do you do? I said, I recognize that I'm the example of how the rest of the world is supposed to treat me. And it's my job to give the world the best example of how I like to be treated.
Right.
So celebrate yourself, forgive yourself, cut the shackles, and then commit to yourself before you commit to anyone else. That right there,
powerful.
that right there will begin to fill your cup up to get to your saucer.
I love that.
I say to my girls all of the time that your real work is to figure out where your power base is and to work on the alignment of your personality, your gifts that you have to give, with the real reason why you're here. That's the number one thing you have to do, is to work on yourself and to fill yourself up and keep your cup full. Keep yourself full. Now, I used to be afraid of that. I used to be afraid, particularly from people who say, oh, she's so full of herself. She's so full of herself. And now I embrace it. I consider it a compliment that I am full of myself. Because you only when you're full, I'm full, I'm overflowing, my cup runneth over. I have so much to offer and so much to give. And I am not afraid of honoring myself. You know, it's miraculous when you think about it.
Every single day that we wake up, we have been gifted the opportunity of choice. You can choose to be happy or you can choose to be sad. I don't care what your situation is. You should never allow your situation to define who you are as a person. I know I lived out of my car for 2.5 years. And you know the story that I told myself in my head every day, all day long? Why does this person get this? Why does this always keep happening to me? Why do I keep getting this girlfriend, this kind of girlfriend? Why does this happen to me? How come this person got this record deal and I didn't? How come this person, why? Oh, poor pity me. Shut up, Garen Jones. The outside is the physical manifestation of what goes on inside the brain. Things do not just happen. No one just rear ends your car. You don't just become broke. Broke is a mindset. Things don't just happen. Your pocketbook is not just below balance or on zero. You're not just by chance you're just overweight. Things don't just happen. I wasn't just living out of my car for 2.5 years. The outside is the physical manifestation of what goes on inside the brain. Just like you can think yourself sad or mad or broke and all of these things, you can also think yourself happy. I'm telling you, coming from a guy that lived out of his car for 2.5 years, I have stuff that I haven't even posted online. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day month, year. It was so bad that I was numb with emotions. crying myself to sleep in my Jeep. How does a guy with so much passion live in his car for 2.5 years? It was all because of me. I deserved to live in my car. I deserved to be broke. I deserved not to have the opportunities that I should have been getting. And they weren't for me. But I'll tell you what was for me. I woke up every day with an opportunity to choose different. If you want something different, you have to do something different. It's that simple. You want something different in life, you have to do something different.
Whatever it is that you want to do, there's going to be risk in your life. And risk is a necessary component of progress. You can make any pioneering movements in the world of any kind, whether they be the geographical, physical exploration that I've just been talking about, or whether it be a more cerebral exploration of a scientific field. Or I bet you could ask that question of every speaker here, and I bet that every speaker here has taken substantial risks, whether it be intellectual or otherwise, to achieve what they've done.
I believe people are bullied because of the image that they projected. When I was young, I had a big lack of confidence. And in my school where I used to go, they had the Lincoln teenager. They used to pick on the younger kids. They were sent there because they had problem with their family, raised by a single father or mother, like alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Some were orphan, and they grew up in a bad environment with a lot of violence. So the only way of communication they had, it was through violence. And they used to apply that to the younger kid in school. And I was victim of that, unfortunately. So the thing is, when I go to do conference, the people why you get bullied sometimes is because the image you project. If you look down, raise your shoulder, and look like a weakling, like in nature, the lion will always go for the animal who's weak, who's injured. And same thing in society. The people will bully the easy target. And when I was young, I had a big problem with confidence. I used to people look down. I didn't have older brother or older cousin to defend myself. I was by myself, and I got picked on because I was an easy target like this. So what martial art taught me is to stand up straight. When I look, I talk to people, I look in the eye. When I shake hand, I'm firm. And the way I start to carry myself, the body language, transformed me. It's not, I stopped being bullying, not because I start beating up people. Right. It's just because the way I was starting to act, the way I was starting to, the projection that I give to people change. And that's what makes it stop.
It's not about being tough.
It's not.
It's about presenting an
it's
image of confidence.
Look tough and look confident. Look confident. That's what it's about. Same thing in business. Same thing when you go ask a girl on a date.
Absolutely.
You go, I'm sorry, I don't want to bother you, but please, could you think you could come with me Saturday night to the rest? It wouldn't work. Like they
it's
go,
the same as asking for a raise.
You look like a loser. You have to be, confident guy.
I stopped pretending to myself that I was anything other than what I was, and began to direct all my energy into finishing the only work that mattered to me. I was set free because my greatest fear had been realized, and I was still alive, and I still had a daughter whom I adored, and I had an old typewriter and a big idea. And so rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all.
It took a couple months to realize. I was 17 at the time. I just finished high school 2 months earlier, and I'm now living in Melbourne. I was playing catch up really quickly anyway. I was living on my own in a new city where I'd never met anyone, 2-hour flight away from anyone I knew, and I had no money, and I was just trying to find couches to sleep on at that point. Plus, before you're 18, you can't sign up and get electricity bills and stuff like that. So no one would rent a place to me. I didn't have any money. The whole thing was I was just trying to keep my head above water at that point. And then once it settled in, I kind of got settled there, and I was working constantly. Then that's when I thought oh, yeah, I've seen people make the jump from here to America. So my choices are either stay on, be good enough to stay on this show for decades, the way some cast members have, which, you'd have a lovely life in Melbourne, or you screw it up and you get fired, which I obviously didn't want to take that option, or try and make the transition to the American industry, try and move to LA and do pilot season, as I had seen a few cast members do at that point. So that was my goal.
Any fear when you made the flight?
Yes, but it wasn't as scary. Yes, definitely, but it wasn't as scary as that first move to Melbourne. That first move to Melbourne was terrifying because I was just, like I said, I didn't have money at the time. I didn't I didn't know anyone. At least when I moved to LA, when I did that flight to LA, I knew 2 people there already who had already been on Neighbours, and I had my money saved. So if anything went really wrong, I knew I could afford to get in a cab, drive to the airport and buy a ticket home. And so that's all I needed to know. I was like, cool, I'm sweet. Whatever happens, if anything goes really wrong, I can always afford to fly home. It'll be fine.
And did it ever, once you got here, did it ever seem like anything was going really wrong, or?
Yeah, there's obviously the ups and downs and the crazy, as anyone who's moved to a new city before, I'm sure they've had crazy experiences. So I had all that for sure. But no, it was fine. It would have had to take a lot to make me fly home. I was like, I will not be a failure. I came here and I'm not going home until I've made it in this business. So
a lot of people come to me and they say, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I go, oh, that's great. What's your idea? And they go, well, I don't have one yet. And I say, well, I think you should go get a job as a busboy or something until you find something you're really passionate about, because it's a lot of work. And I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. It is so hard. You pour so much of your life into this thing, and there are such rough moments in time that most people give up. I don't blame them. I mean, it's really tough, and it consumes your life. I mean, if you've got a family and you're in the early days of a company, I can't imagine how one could do it. I'm sure it's been done, but it's rough. I mean, because it's pretty much an 18-hour-a-day job, 7 days a week for a while. So unless you have a lot of passion about this, you're going to not survive. You're going to give it up. So you got to have an idea or a problem or a wrong that you want to right that you're passionate about. Otherwise, you're not going to have the perseverance to stick it through. And I think that's half the battle right there. It's hard to remember how bad it was, in early 80s, with IBM taking over the world with the PC, with DOS out there. It was far worse than the Apple II. And they tried to copy the Apple II, and they'd done a pretty bad job, and you needed to know a lot. And so things were kind of slipping backwards. And Macintosh was, you saw the 1984 commercial. I hope you have that in your archives. Macintosh was basically this relatively small company, in Cupertino, California, taking on the Goliath, IBM, and saying, wait a minute, your way is wrong. This is not the way we want computers to go. This is not the legacy we want to leave. This is not what we want our kids to be learning. This is wrong, and we are going to show you the right way to do it. And here it is. It's called Macintosh, and this is so much better that it's going to beat you. And we are going to do it. And that's what Apple stood for.